Hi, I'm Farmer Terry, and I'm at the urban farm, and I'm actually inside in our light garden area where I do a lot of seed starting. It's the middle of July, and seed starting is something that I do all year round, actually, because I do microgreens in the winter. But lettuce is one of the things I seed start the most. During the summer season, well, starting in March, we start our first outdoor lettuce seed, and then we every 2 weeks are planting lettuce, head lettuce seed, that is, seed starting inside, transplanting outside. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about some good practices for seed starting. Starting with, how about the containers that you're using? If you're doing a small amount of seed starting, you could probably find great things at home to use. I've heard of people using egg cartons even, the paper ones. But when you're doing something like I'm doing, I do 72 lettuce heads each week. And this is a small, what we call 72 count cell insert. So just for the language, the universal language, flats are what we call these 10 by 20s. 10 by 20 flat, actually 10 inches wide, 20 inches long. These are the most common size of seed starting materials you're going to find. And you can find these at, well, you can find them at box stores now, but you certainly can order them online. Johnny's, which is one of my favorite seed places, which I'm going to be using Johnny's seed today, sells all of these supplies as well. So we have smaller ones for things that don't stay in the cell long. Head lettuce is about 3 weeks in the cell before it moves outside and is transplanted directly into the garden. Some of the things that have bigger seeds or are in longer, I would use a larger cell. This is called a 50 count cell. Now also there are smaller ones that are for bulk planting. This is called a seed starting tray. It actually has 20 compartments, allowing us to pretty easily keep account of a bulk planting by putting 10 in each of the 20 chambers. And what's great about this is when you're seed starting inside in a limited area, and then you're going to be bumping them up to the next size, either to move them outside or just easier maintenance while they're in a bulk setting. But this is a 2-week tray. So this is something, if you do it, you have to be ready to bump up to a bigger size in about 2 weeks before the roots start tangling with each other because they're so close. So anyway, back to our head lettuce. So finding the right size tray is going to be one of the things you want to consider. There's also big pots, like if you're doing growing your own tomatoes in the spring. A big pot could be a one-time plant versus moving it from smallest to large. Also, the bottom tray is important too. We have a number of different ones, but I guess the common one for this cell would also be a 10 by 20 flat that has no holes in it. We call that a non-vented flat. And when we're doing stuff inside, we always use a non-vented flat. When we move it outside, we put the vented flat so that the water can move through, and we can heavy water them and allow them to drain. Inside, not so much. We more bottom water, and so this solid flat is the best move for the seed starting we're doing right now. So the first thing I want to do is fill my 72 count flat with a good soil. Now, I don't use outside soil when I'm working with seedlings inside because sometimes they have bug pressure, eggs in there. Sometimes they have disease from having been exposed to something in your environment outside. So typically we're buying seed starting soil. Well, what's so unique about the soil you buy in a bag? Well, oftentimes it has ingredients that hold moisture, which is one of two of the most important things for your seed to pop open and grow. We call that germination. Coconut coir is one of the things we're seeing a lot of now. Also peat, perlite, vermiculite. These are all water holding properties. So anyway, once we get find a good source for soil, there's lots of organic kinds out there, and that's what we have here. We want to moisten it to what I call 75% moist. It's your real only opportunity to make sure that the moisture is evenly distributed in the flat. But when I squeeze it, I'm going to get a couple drops of water. That's the visual for 75% moisture. Then I'm going to simply fill the cells. I can do that with my hands. Sometimes I might wear kitchen gloves if I'm worried about getting my nails dirty, which happens a lot. Now, one of the things to remember is you want to make sure that there's no air holes in these cells. Roots do not like to grow into air holes. So a simple, using your thumb maybe or a finger, applied pressure, you can see some of those are sinking and some aren't. Some have air holes and some don't. Now, I'm not pressing hard. I'm just pressing enough that if there's an air hole, I'm getting it down there. And then I'm just refilling because I want the roots to have as much room as possible in here for 3 weeks. Sometimes I have to push it to 4. And I want them to grow evenly throughout the flat. Air holes can cause slow growing. Okay, so once you feel like you have it ready, you can use a pencil or a pen to simply poke some little holes. I see a pen right here I'm going to grab just to demo that. So we can either go through and put a little hole in each one of these cells to go back and put your seed in. Or sometimes I'll just put the seed on top and press it just under the surface. Most good seed packets, back to our Johnny's brand, will give you the information you need to know on how deep to put your seed. Now the seed we're using today is pelleted lettuce seed, which means they've taken the super teeny tiny lettuce seed and they put a little organic matter around it so that it's more manageable and we can be a little more efficient in the seed starting. So if I've put the holes in, I'm dropping into that 1/4 inch hole, just one seed. I have really good germination on this, germination rates, so I don't even put a second seed in there. Seed costs are going up all the time. It's one of the biggest wastes on a farm is overbuying seed. And pelleted seed does not last from season to season. You really need to use it in its first season. Whoops, dropped a couple. But it's so much easier to work with these. Once in a while I'll drop 2, but if you've ever worked with teeny tiny seeds, this is just heaven compared. We can see them, they're bright white. We can feel them individually. Drop 1 into each. Now these I'm just have sitting on top. I really prefer to do it this way because sometimes, well, a lot of times I get interrupted in my work and then I don't know where I left off. So when I can see them, I can just go back then with the pen or pencil. 1/4 inch is about the depth of your pencil eraser. And the reason we want to cover them is just so that they're totally surrounded by moisture. Now some seeds you're going to put on a heat mat because they prefer a hotter temperature, but the general temperature for most seed starting, 65 is good. And lettuce is definitely more cold loving and can germinate even under 65 degrees. So that's the kind of information you can get on your seed packet as well. What's the ideal temps for moisture? I'm sorry, for soil, and maybe even the ideal moisture levels. So once we've gotten these all pushed in, just right under the soil there, cover them up. These ones I'm actually just going to add a little more soil on top because they did sink in a little bit. I must have missed that. Okay, Of course, you want to put a label on to remember what kind of lettuce you planted. I can't tell you how many times I planted cherry tomatoes thinking they were something else because they never got labeled. Dealing with that right now outside. So always label. I'm not going to do that right now, but I think you know what I mean. I like to use old blinds for labels. I cut them up, and one blind can last me 5 years. So we've got our moisture, we've chosen the right container, we've got our moist soil, we've filled, we've put the seed in, pressed it the depth that's ideal, and now we want to do one last thing to hold that moisture there. So you don't have to worry about watering constantly, but we're going to take, this is called a shallow tray, and they're actually white. They actually leave a little light through, which lettuce seed prefers to get light when it germinates. Most seeds can be germinated in the dark. So I've taken that, turned it upside down, and just simply sat it on there. Sometimes I'll put a little weight on just to keep that moisture inside, that whole system of evaporation, accumulation, precipitation, which is a great science lesson if you're working with kids, which I do all the time. So anyway, this humidity tray then will hold the moisture. I'll check it every day as soon as I see them popping up, and they should pop up fairly uniformly throughout, and that's why we do the uniform watering of the soil before we fill, is so that we can keep everything as uniform as possible, so that our germination rate is as uniform as possible, so that every step of the way from here to harvest will be uniform with this 72 heads of lettuce. So here we go. Again, we closed it up. And the last thing I'll do is put this on my light tray. In the case of lettuce, it likes light. In the case of other things, I can just let it sit on a table until it pops up, and then I would move it to a light shelf. So this is my new lettuce planting. I'm just going to sit it up here for a second so I can show you this one, which is at 2.5 weeks, almost ready to be planted out to the garden. And this was started, and you can see some uneven germination in here. So something must have happened. Either the moisture or the light was not evenly applied, and that's the result, and that becomes an inefficiency. So I do this every week, and you can do this with any seed, of course, and you just want to check out the specifics for your seed on a good seed packet. So again, Johnny's has the greatest seed packets for beginners, giving you lots of this information, and a good resource book is a must-have too. So thanks for joining me in the light garden here at the Urban Farm, and I hope you enjoy your own seed starting. You can save a lot of money and create a lot of satisfaction in your journey for growing your own food. Until next time, have a great day.